Clare FM's Beyond Belief with Father Gerry Kenny.
Clare FM.
A very good evening, and you're warmly welcome as you join us for Beyond Belief here on this Sunday, the 22nd of March. Father Gerry Kenny here with you in the chair tonight, and on our programme we will hear a discussion about ecology and our care of the earth. We will also journey with the help of two students from St. Joseph's Community College who visited Mission Vale in Port Elizabeth, South Africa, to see the continuing work of the great mission there set up by the late Sister Ethel Normal from Lissycasey. And of course, I'll be chatting with my friend and colleague Stephen Fletcher in a few moments. But first of all, we begin as always with some music. And I think many of us were saddened over the past week when we heard of the death of Dolores Kane, that marvellous voice with its own particular strength and beauty. So we begin this evening honouring Dolores and remembering her family in particular and friends and colleagues who mourn her passing at this time. May she rest in peace. And here is that wonderful voice singing one of the Beatles' classic songs, Let It Be. The voice of Dolores Kane.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my hour of darkness, she is standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it
jolly good company.
Well, here we are again. I'm happy to be down in Stephen Fletcher's little studio here in Kilrush in West Clare. A very good evening to you, Stephen.
Good evening, Gerry. You're very welcome back.
And thank you for the hospitality as always. And you've been travelling a lot with your bishop.
Oh, goodness me. Yeah, we actually finished on Saturday morning. We'd had to shuffle things around a bit, but it's been full on. We've visited 30 different churches over 10 days. And, I keep stressing how big our diocese is. It is huge. And so we ended up in Mayo, in Sligo, and we started off down in the Ring of Kerry. So it's been a huge, huge journey. And then in the middle of it, in the week, on Thursday, we should have been somewhere. And sadly, one of our key people passed away, and so his funeral was in Killarney on Thursday, and so that was a big shock to everyone, but it meant that we had to rejig the final visits that we were doing. But yeah, it's all done now, and it's very nice to go around and see people. Most of the time, I think the weather was kind to us. We only had rain a few occasions, but it was good, and of course it's nice to get out and meet people.
And of course, you had the added thing of seeing all the vintage cars and tractors and everything that turned up for the visits.
A bit of fun. Yeah, one of the most popular videos that I put up was Bishop Michael trying to get into an MG midget. And he's a big man. He's taller than you and me, and he tried to get into. Well, he got into it, but then had trouble getting out. So I videoed it, and I did check with him. He was happy to have it put out. And then just a day ago, he drove a tractor, an old Fergie, around the car park in Ballinasloe. He was in Ballinasloe and drove around the car park in a tractor, rather jerkily. But anyway, it's all a bit of fun, and he is also raising funds. So in next week's Beyond Belief, I'll be talking to him about how the journey has gone.
Very good, very good. Of course, this week a lot was happening with St. Patrick's Day parades and all of that. And, luckily enough, I think the weather was okay here in West Clare for a number of parades and a great turnout. And, people enjoyed themselves, and all the children and families had a great celebration of our national patron.
Indeed. And the weather was cold here in Kilrush, and it rained just at the end when the prizes were being presented. They just presented the last prize and it rained. But it had been, it was a cold wind.
Right. There's still a little bite in it, but I think it's getting a little bit milder. And of course, it's great to see the bright mornings and evenings, now again. That's that. And, there's put in a little bit in the programme about the necessity for all of us to be very much aware of our environment. And when spring comes, I think we become more conscious of the beauty of the earth that's all around us and the flowers and everything else. And I know the farming community is very busy as well. Yeah. For them, the seasonal change is welcome as well.
Yeah. And just to see the sun, even if it is still cold, you can feel the warmth of the sun on your face, which is lovely, isn't it?
Oh, it is, yeah, it is. And it brightens people on their journey as well.
Yeah.
And of course, one of the sad pieces of news over the past week was the passing of Dolores Kane, a favourite singer of mine. There was a quality in her voice that was unique, and a strength and a beauty in it. And I'm using a few pieces from her on our programme tonight in tribute to her. So as the programme goes on, we'll hear from Dolores Kane, and she rests in peace.
Indeed,
yeah.
Indeed.
But of course, in all of this, we're living in very troubled times, aren't we?
Yeah.
Our world is sort of, there's a feeling of chaos, really.
There is, and there's a feeling of powerlessness on our part, and nationally as well. The Irish government, the English government, they're all powerless, really.
Right.
And it's a very worrying situation. And you sort of ask, what can we do? Well, I suppose all we can do is pray, Gerry.
Absolutely. I mean, it's looking for some sort of stability. And this is going to affect everything and is affecting everything. Yeah. I mean, you drive by the local petrol station and you see the prices changing by the day, going up and up.
Yeah.
And people at home heating and that.
Home heating is a terrible situation. I mean, obviously I've been doing a lot of driving, And I run on diesel. I know you're electric, but I run on diesel still. And, you literally see it's gone up 12 pence. Since I started these peregrinations, it's gone up even more than that, and just randomly seems to go up.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, the knock-on effect of all of that is that in time, everything else will go up. I mean,
of course.
The making of plastic, depending on petroleum as well. Yeah. All of that, everything is going to increase.
The hauliers are making the point that everything we have, 80% of everything we have, comes on a lorry.
Yeah.
When you think of it, clothing, fuel, food, of course, all that ultimately comes
and that's
on
putting,
a lorry.
That's putting enormous pressure on households and on people, adding to the stress, I think, of living. So it's important that we keep that in mind and that we pray for a resolution of the difficulties that are happening at the moment.
Yeah.
And the awful thing, I mean, I think it was last weekend, I saw a figure for what was spent on the war in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's mind-blowing.
I know.
On arms. And I mean, look at what that good could do in terms of the organisations that are trying to help, like Concern, Trócaire, whatever, in terms of world poverty. I mean, this is humanity turned upside down, really.
It is, and you see the devastation. We've seen it in Gaza, and now we're seeing it in Iran. And as I may have mentioned before, Gerry, 50 years ago, I worked in Iran before when the Shah was there, before the revolution. As a young single man, I worked for a couple of years in the oil fields there, and they're lovely people. There was no problem at all. Very, very liberal society then, but now, oh goodness.
Yeah, it is. Man's inhumanity to man, as they say. It's frightening that we can be so cruel, and we just pray that there will be resolution. And
Absolutely.
I pray every day for the peacemakers and those trying to work on bringing resolution, because that has to happen. That's the only way it will end. Dialogue and reconciliation in some way or other, and that takes time. But the sooner that process begins, the healthier and the better for everyone, I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
Actually, that leads us nicely into our next piece of music, Stephen. Thank you for chatting, because, again, I'm using the voice of Dolores Kane. This time she's with Tommy Sands, but they did a beautiful version a few years ago of that classic song, Where Have All the Flowers Gone? And we pray for all those affected in many of the areas of conflict, those we hear about in the Middle East, but also in places that are struck with poverty throughout the world, and the conflicts that are going on there that don't make the headlines. We remember our fellow humans, wherever they are, and may be suffering at this time.
Yeah. Thank you, Gerry.
Where have all the flowers gone? Long time passing. Where have all the flowers gone? Long time ago. Where have all the flowers gone? The young girls pick them, everyone. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn?
Where have all the young girls gone? Long time passing. Where have all the young girls gone? Long time ago. Where have all the young girls gone? Gone to husbands, everyone. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn?
And where have all the young men gone? When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn? And where have all the graveyards gone? Long time passing. Where have all the graveyards gone? Long time ago. Where have all the graveyards gone? Gone to flowers, everyone. When will we ever learn? When will we ever learn?
This is Clare FM.
The sound there of some children from Mission Vale in Port Elizabeth, South Africa, practicing on steel drums. Just over a month ago, some 15 students from secondary schools in County Clare, together with teachers and under the leadership of Father Donna O'Mara, visited Mission Vale in Port Elizabeth, South Africa. They went there to continue their support for the mission that was set up by the late Sister Ethel Normal, a native of Lissikesi. This past week, I had the opportunity to meet with two of the students who travelled on that particular journey, Nathan Nolan and Eve Nagel, attending St. Joseph's Community College here in Kilkee, and asked them about the experience of being in Mission Vale and what they found. In terms of your trip to Mission Vale, Nathan, was it a long journey, and what was it like?
Yeah, it was a long journey. We had 3 flights, with our first one being from Shannon to London, which was just over an hour, and then our long haul flight being from London to Johannesburg, which was over 10 hours, and then our last flight being from Johannesburg to Port Elizabeth. But the travel was well worth the trip.
And Eve, in terms of when you arrived in Mission Vale, was there somebody there to greet you?
Yes, all the townspeople were there to greet us, and when we got off our bus, they almost made like a pathway for us to welcome us into the centre, and they had Irish flags and they were singing and dancing for us, and they were just so happy to see us.
And in terms of what you did with all of the other, participants who travelled out from Ireland on this particular trip, what were your days like that you spent there? You were there for over a week or so?
Yeah, for the week we were kind of divided up into groups, and we were given different things that we could do. So we helped some people with some jobs that needed doing. We did the gardening. We helped out in the medical centre, and even gave out food to people in the mornings.
And how different was that from what you were expecting?
Well, the work that we were doing in the centre, it was fine. I'm not sure really what I expected, but the work there, it was fine. It was nice to do, doing the gardening and giving out the food, but going around to the houses actually outside of the Mission Vale Centre in the township, that was pretty rough. Now, I didn't really expect it. I don't know what I really expected, but seeing that, it was difficult. Seeing how different it was, that was difficult, and I didn't really expect it.
Mission Vale, which was set up, I suppose, by the late Sister Ethel Normal, and started off, I suppose, on small grounds really, but it is now taken on a life of its own. What did you see that Mission Vale means for their community out there?
Well, the community there, like the people in the centre, are just amazing. You can see how much love and care they put into the centre and the people. And even talking to people who were there from previous years, they say how much the centre has grown and how much it means to the people in the local area. And you can see that when people line up in the mornings. They may line up there for maybe hours to get food for loved ones, but they do it, and the care centre provides that for them.
You know, you were bringing out some gifts as well, and bringing out the contributions that you had collected in the months prior to your travel and that. So those donations will be well spent.
So we did bring out our own donations. We all brought out a suitcase each, about 23 kg, just full of kind of bandages and clothes and jerseys and stuff for people out there. And we spent our time out there, about maybe an hour or so a day, just dividing out all the suitcases and sorting out all the clothes, from like baby clothes to like older kids and to adults. It was very interesting to see, like, there were so many donations, and the care centre were so happy with what we brought.
And now that you're back, it's nearly a month since you visited Mission Vale. Has it left a lasting impression for you, do you think? And what are your thoughts now when you reflect on it after coming back?
Yeah, definitely. Like, the whole trip is an incredible, happy memory, but the leaving was the sad part. And you'd still think about it every day and think about the people that you met and the impact that they've had. Like, I feel the people that I met out there are some of the nicest people I've ever met. And, you know, it's sad and happy. It's bittersweet to look back on.
Yeah, no, I think about it every day. And like as Nathan said, the people out there, they were just so kind and they were so welcoming. And they appreciated us so much, and they were so happy, and like everyone out there was kind, and everyone out there would say hello to you. And yeah, I feel the same, bittersweet. Like, I was really sad leaving her.
Voices there of the children and people of Mission Vale in Port Elizabeth, South Africa, where Nathan Nolan and Eve Nagel of Kilkee Community College went with other students from secondary schools in County Clare to visit the project there, continuing the work of the late sister Ethel Normal from Lissycasey. And our thanks to Eve Nagel and Nathan Nolan for chatting about their experience there last month.
I've been climbing mountains since I first learned how to crawl. Just when I'm making progress, I seem to hit the boundary wall. And when I get back on my feet, somebody shoots me down. I can't imagine how it would be if you were not around. It's like swimming across the river, trying to reach the other side. I know I'll get there somehow if your arms are open wide. But if you turned and walked away, I may never well be found. I don't know how my life would be if you were not around. Were it not for you, I don't know where I'd be. How you see me through all the things I could not see. Everything you do to great amount. I can't imagine how it would be if you were not around. I know my world would crumble in, the same just like it was before, with an emptiness within. No one there to guide me or keep my feet back on the ground. I don't know how my life would be if you were not around. Were it not for you, where I'd be, how you see me through all the things I could not see. Everything you do to great amount. I can't imagine how it would be if you were not around. My life would have no meaning if you had not turned my way. I never want to lose this feeling. That's why you'll always hear me say, were it not for you, I don't know where I'd be, how you see me through all the things I could not see. Everything you do to great amount. I can't imagine how it would be if you were not around. I can't imagine how it would be if you were not around.
The voice there of Patrick Roach with If You Were Not Around. As we move into the springtime and have the longer evenings and earlier mornings, we particularly see in the plants and flowers that are growing that creation is budding anew, waking up to remind us of the great gift of God's creation that is all around us. In our time, there is a growing awareness of the importance of ecology, of care of the earth. This was spoken profoundly by the late Pope Francis in his encyclical Laudato Si. It's a call for ecological conversion. He says, Christ is at the centre of all creation and we are called to be co-creators with Christ. It presents a challenge for us to reflect on how we relate to all of God's creation, including the animals we love. James Hanvey is a Jesuit priest who spoke recently with Pat Coyle of the Jesuit Communications Centre on the whole topic of ecology as presented through the eyes of St. Ignatius's spiritual exercises. Dr. Hanvey explains how St. Ignatius' vision for us extends far beyond our own personal sanctification or interior conversion. It's a call for participation in God's dynamic, creative mission that embraces all of creation. We listen now to the conversation that Dr. Hanvey had with Pat Coyle.
To work with others in building a common home is picking up that great theme of Pope Francis. And at the heart, if you remember, of Laudato Si, his great encyclical on this, Francis keeps emphasizing the need for an ecological conversion, that instead of treating creation as an instrument for our use in whatever way, we actually need to respect it. We need to recognize that we live in a whole complicated nexus of relationships that we can't live without. We don't stand outside of creation. We're part of it. And what I wanted to do is pick up that fourth UAP, that fourth Universal Apostolic Preference, and say, okay, using our own resources of the exercises from the first Universal Apostolic Preference, what do the exercises teach us or help us understand our conversion towards creation? And I was actually quite amazed myself when I began to look more closely at this, because there's right in the first week, that's when we're dealing with our unfreedoms, our sinfulness. One of the things we have to realize is that our sinfulness affects all our relationships with God, with one another, but also our relationship with creation. Because sin, if you like, puts us in alienation from God, from ourselves, from one another, but also alienation from creation. And so when I look at how my selfishness, or whatever form my sinfulness takes, how I exploit creation, it's damaged. So creation itself suffers in its own way because of our sinfulness, our exploitation of it. Because creation isn't infinite, it's finite. and its resources are finite, but also the beautiful complexity that God has given us in creation means that whatever I do, I may think I'm not having an effect on other life forms, but I am. So we need to work at that. Well, I'm not being romantic about this or naive. There are clearly things in creation that are harmful for us. We need to recognize that. God has also given us the creativity to use our science, to use our medicine, to better creation and to better ourselves. So we're not simply passive or exploitative in this regard, but we have to work in a harmony with it. So what I wanted to do was say, okay, how does the exercises help us discover this? Interestingly, as a little footnote, if I can say, Pat, when you're looking at the whole question of ecology, it's very interesting to me that so many writers, Christian, non-Christian, whatever, are all talking about the need to discover a spirituality. Because it's a spirituality that changes our relationships, our perceptions, our imagination, if you like, but also gives us a more transcendent picture, which helps us better and regulate our relationships. So we're all in search of a deeper spirituality to help with this ecological conversion and to help with how we respect, cherish and serve the life that is given us in all its forms. And I think as we go on, we discover the only intelligent form of life. We used to think we were. But, intelligence comes in many different forms. The birds, the animals have their intelligence and they have their emotions. When you see elephants mourning the death, there's a social element to this that we need to take account of. So it's in that context then.
I want to come back. I'll wait till you're finished because there's some questions that have arisen for me in what you've said. But let's go to where you find that then in the exercise.
Well, there are several key points, I think. The first is in the first week, when I experience God's liberating mercy, which also restores my relationships with God, with one another. It's interesting, it's in paragraph 60. In a beautiful way, Ignatius says there, I look at how the crucified Christ, the sign of God's mercy, overwhelming mercy, liberates me, but then I'm filled with wonder and amazement. As I look around me, I begin to realize with a deep gratitude, well, wait a minute, yes, God's mercy is always present. For instance, isn't it extraordinary how I have offended creation and abused it, but it hasn't rejected me. I'm still here. So there's a celebration of recognizing that all creation still has continued to care for me even though I haven't cared for it. So out of that, that's my conversion. I suddenly realized, wait a minute, there's a huge gratitude here. And isn't it wonderful that creation has sustained me even when I've been abusing it? And it's from that point then we begin to enter into a new understanding of creation. That creation is the sign also of God's love and mercy, which continues no matter what we're doing. And I wanted to develop that and trace that through the exercises. But also what that may mean in terms of our deeper conversion, the real use of our freedom. Also how it changes our attitude to this world. I mean, it seems to me that many of the great scientists, they don't actually have a complete neutrality towards what they're studying. There's a love that they have for it and a curiosity. We don't stand as if we're in another planet looking back. We actually recognize the deep complexity, the deep beauty of what we're doing. And that brings forth in us a sort of reverence and an understanding, an aesthetic understanding, and also spiritual understanding of beauty. So that's the movement that I wanted to face in the exercises. And I find that it goes all the way through the exercises. Of course, it's also present in the incarnation of Christ, who gathers all of this together, as Colossians speaks about. So we're always encountering the grace of Christ in creation, however we go about it. But then it comes again to its great head at the end of the exercises in this wonderful contemplation called the Contemplation to Attain the Love of God, in which, very simply but very profoundly, we're asked to consider how if someone loves us, they want to share all that they have with us. I think this is true humanly, but it's also what God does. God wants to share everything that God has with us. And of course, the everything of God is God's self. So there's that exchange of gifts in love. And the question for me is, if I'm discovering this love, how do I exchange my gifts with those around me, with the whole of creation? And then the second point is that love expresses itself not just in beautiful words and rhetoric, but also in deeds. So I have to put that into action, and I have to make it concrete. Then I consider how God dwells in all things, and that this is a deep personal indwelling, so that God in all things is God's personal love manifested. This is the way in which a lover shares his or her gifts with the beloved. So that changes my way of being in creation, my way of understanding creation, and therefore ultimately the way in which I relate to it.
And that's really the key, isn't it? That relationship is what I was thinking as you were speaking, that at the core of all this, it is about realising what is I am in relationship. That's just non-negotiable now.
But it's the type of relationship. I am in relationship, but I can exploit it and I can misuse it. But now it's a completely different thing. It's like if you, again, the analogy I would use, if you really love someone, if you love your children, you don't want to exploit them. You want to care for them, want to cherish. You want to see what gifts they have and bring those gifts to fruition and fulfillment. And so I think that where we are moving now in terms of creation is to say, creation is itself filled with gifts. And we want to say, how can we cherish it and bring all of the gifts of creation to their fulfillment for God's glory? It challenges us deeply. It means a conversion of our own values. But if we can bring that about, even slowly, how extraordinary, what a wonderful world we will be living in.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I never knew. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Just as we associate Christmas with Christmas carols, so as we move towards the season of Holy Week and Easter, the story of the Passion, Death and Resurrection of Jesus has inspired many musical compositions down through the centuries. St. Matthew's Passion is set to music by Bach. Part of Handel's oratorio, The Messiah, also features the Hallelujah chorus, and so the prayers and antiphons of the Holy Week season leading into Easter has inspired composers down through the years to set the words to music. The antiphon Ubi Caritas, meaning where charity and love prevail, has been part of the Church's tradition associated with Holy Thursday and the washing of the disciples' feet by Jesus. It's an antiphon that has been sung right down through the centuries, with the particular wording that we have now probably written around the 8th century and making its way into the canon of church music in Gregorian chant. But other composers have also set these words to music. Composers like Maurice Duruflé, who used the words of the antiphon in his musical setting in the 1960s. The hymn itself is a reminder of the great command of Jesus to love one another. The translation of Ubi Caritas goes as follows: Where charity and love are found, God is there. The love of Christ has gathered us together into one. Let us rejoice and be glad in Him. Let us fear and love the living God, and love each other from the depths of our heart. Ole Gello was born in Norway in 1978 and moved to the United States, where he began his composition studies at the Juilliard School in New York City. Among his most popular compositions has been the setting of the hymn Ubi Caritas for 4-part choir. This choral arrangement is based on the Gregorian chant that was used for centuries, but he has enriched it with the choral colours he has put into this composition. So as we move towards the great feast of the Passion, Death and Resurrection of Jesus, let's listen now to this encouraging antiphon sung by Voices 8, composed by Ole Gello, reminding us that where charity and love are found, God is there. the beautiful antiphon Ubi Caritas, where charity and love are found, God is there. An antiphon that is used as part of the liturgy of Holy Thursday in the coming weeks. And that particular composition sung there for us by Voices 8 in a musical setting by Ola Jello. And that brings us near enough to our time of closure for tonight's edition of Beyond Belief here on Clare FM. My thanks to all our participants and contributors, to Dr. James Hanvey and Pat Coyle for the discussion on ecology and its importance for us in our spiritual lives. To Nathan Nolan and Eve Nagel, students of St. Joseph's Community College in Kilkee, telling us about their trip recently with many other students from County Clare and their teachers out to Mission Vale and to the foundation set up by the late Sister Ethel Normile there in South Africa. And of course my thanks as always to Stephen Fletcher, my colleague, for our chat earlier in the programme and for producing tonight's programme. We leave you with the reminder that you can listen to past editions of Beyond Belief and to Sunday Prayer, which is broadcast every Sunday morning at 7:45 here on Clare FM, by going to the catch-up facility on the Clare FM webpage, where we began our programme tonight with the voice of Dolores Kane, whose passing saddened so many of us during the past week. May she enjoy the eternal reward of her goodness and journey here on this world, and the great legacy she has left us in her voice and music. And we're leaving you tonight with Dolores' special voice as she sings the Irish song Táimse in Colla, I am sleeping, do not wake me. From me, Gerry Kenny, on behalf of the Beyond Belief team, a very good night and a very peaceful journey to you in the coming week. Slán agus Beannacht.
Tránónín dhéana igéan gáis lasadam Táimse Colla nis nádó sig mé Se jaargas lam hef an spér van Varsjúa Táimse Colla is nádó sig mé Bábhachalach pédla Dréimlach barachas A chánolt gríomha ag titim le bhaile chrí Si a caiithú na séad Trim heb dá hialig mé Táimse Colla is nádó sig mé Is mó bochlog a tóga ga cheanasa Táimse Colla nis nádó sig mé Dá chéir a le foinart anon ar farige Táimse Colla nis nádó sig mé Gá bheith an lá a bheith ar a chasaní Mer a rám siad ag trá si ag branar dún Scan mé se bheith ann mar a downin an maide ló Táimse Colla nis nádó